In this particular video, we are going to take a look at all the various ways in which you can include or exclude labels in your visualization. So what we have right here are we're looking at profit across the three categories. This is the Superstore sample database by quarters. And you've probably have seen this and probably have used this. This icon right here, show mark labels. If you click on it, we'll have all the labels for each of the marks will appear. If you click on it again, then they all disappear. But there's a lot more that we could do with labels, and so I'm going to walk you through those now. So I'm going to click on the label mark card, and this checkbox right here does the same thing as the icon at top. If we check it, all the mark labels appear. If we uncheck it, they disappear. But let's take a look at what each of these different options also do, and we'll go into some other things as well. So min-max, as you can imagine, shows just the whatever the minimum and the maximum value are, and so we see that there. We could say we just want to see the line end, so that's going to show me the label for the beginning and the end. We can say selected, and when we say selected, that means we're giving the user the ability to view a mark or to make a mark viewable, right? So if I click right here, the tooltip pops up and it tells me what the profit is. But if I want to see that in my viz, I could click there and it shows up. And if I keep my command key down, I could click on various points and see what the label is for those. So that's using the select option. And clearly, if you're making a visualization for someone else to use, you're going to have to indicate that this is a possibility. Next, let's talk about, I'm going to skip over highlighted for right now, but talk about the most recent. So if you look at the most recent, what it has done is, as expected, it's just showing you the labels for the three most recent marks within each category. So that's the 2019 Q4 that we see here. But what I want to, in order to really understand how this is working, let's take a look at some additional functionality that we can choose from when we're using most recent. You see that Tableau looked at this visualization or data and selected pane, meaning that it's doing the most recent for each category. And that's why each of these have their labels. But I want to show you something just to kind of reinforce what this most recent is doing. If I click table instead of pane, now it's doing it for the whole table, but it's the same thing, right? We're getting the marks on the most recent profit for technology, office supplies, and furniture. But if I go to this mark, and it could be any of these marks, but I'm just going to click on the technology mark, and I'm going to exclude that quarter. And now that I've done that, the only two marks that are showing up are the most recent, and that's because I have changed the scope. Remember this idea behind direction and scope, and if you're going, what is Dr. Horning talking about? Go back and review that video. But the scope was now the table, and in the table, this is no longer the most recent date because it's Q3, not Q4. If I switch the scope back to pane, then within this pane, in other words, within the technology category, this is our most recent quarter, and so it will show up. So those are some of the things that we can do with with labels. Let me show you a couple other things that we can do, or that you can do. You could format any of these marks. You could do several things. If you click on a mark, you could actually move it, right? So if we want the marks to be a little bit above and below the line, let's see if I can get that to move. Oh, it's a negative, so it's probably not going to move that much, but well, let's just put it here. Okay, and this is not going to make much sense putting it there, but what you could see that we are, or you have the ability to move the marks. Clearly, you have to get your mouse to work right, but we could do that. The other thing you can do with regard to marks. So some of the other things I could do with my marks is change the font, right? So if I wanted to be a different font, let's say I want my marks to be Tableau medium. There they are, they're now medium. If I want to make them a bit smaller, now they're a bit smaller. If I want to make them a bit longer, now they're a bit longer. If I want to underline them, which probably wouldn't make sense, I could underline them, etc. You could change the color, right? So if we want to make them all orange, we can do that as well. Some of the other things that we could do is you could go to any mark. Let me take all the marks off, or the labels off, I should say. You can go to any mark, and if you right click on it and then go to mark label, you'll see that you've got different options. One, resetting the position. I showed you how to move things around, but you can have always show and never show. So for example, if I click never show on that particular mark and then I turn the labels on, you'll notice the labels appear for everything except for that one mark that I said never show. So we could do you could do something the opposite of never show, but always show. So for example, if I click on this mark, or right click I should say, go to mark label and then say always show. Now I see that mark label, correct? So if I go onto the label marks card and choose line ends and make sure the marks are shown, then we see the line end labels as we're asking for, but also this mark that we said to be always on. So going into the mark label and choosing always show or never show overrides whatever is being done in the visualization using the icon or the label card. So those are some of the things that we can do with labels, but I want to show you one other thing, and to do that I'm going to kind of erase, go back and get back to exactly where I was. I think I hopefully am there now. And what I'm going to do is drag category off the row shelf and onto the color shelf. And now I have all three of my categories showing up as lines, within one XY axis. So let me show you one thing, or a couple things. Let me go to, we didn't cover this, highlighted. If I check highlighted, and then obviously I need to make sure the show marks is on. Now if I highlight technology by clicking over here within my my legend, then the marks for what I highlighted are appearing. If I change that to furniture, those labels appear, and whoops, if I do that for technology, those labels appear. And we could do the same thing if I click on any of these options here. Any of these marks, I should say, they are appearing as well. So that's how highlighter works. But the last thing I want to show you is, then I'm going to drop category on label. It has the same settings, but just so you could see, I went into fonts, and instead of choosing an automatic color, right, which in this case Tableau is choosing to use black, you could use match color, and now the labels or the color of the labels are matching, let me get that underline off that I had from before, are matching the color of the lines. So this is a really nice way of adding labels in place of a legend, so I can get rid of that. It gives me more screen space, of course. It allows me to remove that legend and still obviously provide the same information. And those are the various things that you can do with labels in Tableau.